Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
All right, well, welcome back. My name is Corey Boatwright, founder of Real Estate Investing Profits, and I'm your host on our Profit Master series here podcast. And we have an incredible guest. His name is Eddie Speed. Now, before I get started, make sure that if you have your phone with you right now and you haven't downloaded your Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, you do so by simply texting the word profit. That number is 38470. Just text 38470, and immediately you're going to get a text back with a link that you can download the guide. Very easy way for you to do that. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about Eddie, somebody I've known for a long time. Some of our buddies in the mastermind, Collective Genius Mastermind that Jason Medley puts on, we call him Eddie. Get old Eddie because he's a good old boy, and he's someone that we all respect dearly. This guy has been buying notes, since 1980. He has dedicated his professional life to the seller financing and non-performing note industry. Eddie founded Note School, and that is a highly recognized training company specializing in this teaching of buying both performing and non-performing discounted mortgage notes. Now, if you don't know what a note is, don't worry, he's going to tell you. So Eddie is also owner and president of Colonial Funding Group, LLC, which acquires and brokers discounted real estate secured notes. Now, in addition, he's also a principal in a family of private equity funds and acquires bulk portfolio of notes. Eddie is a leader and an innovator in the note business for over 30 years. He will tell you that those 30 plus years have prepared him for the incredible opportunity of this current real estate market. You're in for a big treat. I really respect Eddie a lot. I've taught with him. He's in my backyard. His headquarters is in Texas, and I'm in Oklahoma. And we just really, have a lot of respect for one another. And so you're going to enjoy this podcast. So without any further ado, here is Mr. Eddie Speed. All right, cool. What is going on, Mr. Eddie Speed?
It's all good. It's all good. We are, I had somebody ask me the other day, what was my biggest challenge? And I said, we need to stretch out the days, the hours in the day, because opportunity right now is so good. I don't seem like I can get it all done. But
I hear you. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. Obviously, we're doing this podcast series. It's called Profit Masters. And thank you for coming on and sharing some of the strategies that you have. I know it's made you real successful. You and I met in a mastermind, and I know you pretty well, but why don't you take just a few minutes here and go ahead and explain to our listeners who you are and what area of real estate is really your expertise, Eddie?
Well, I would be considered across the country as a note guy. I've actually owned a lot of property, several thousand properties, in fact. But I'm really a note guy. I bought notes since 1980. Well, we buy performing notes and non-performing notes. We have a training business called Note School. And then we have a capital fund, and we raise money with accredited investors and buy notes. So if you kind of look at how our whole circle works, we train people to buy notes, we buy notes in bulk, and then we resell notes in small increments, as little as one note at a time, to an audience predominantly trained by Note School.
Right. So most people know what buying and selling houses are, flipping houses, but for some of those that don't understand the difference between buying and selling a house compared to flipping a note or buying a note, can you explain that just really briefly?
Sure. So virtually everybody on the call knows about seller financing. So we'll use seller financing as an example.
Sure.
We'll buy an existing seller finance transaction where somebody else has sold the property and they're carrying the payments. They're carrying the note over time. We'll buy those notes at a discount. We've been doing it a long time. In fact, our executive team has bought over $2 billion in discounted seller finance notes. So we understand it, how it works, all that stuff. And then the other side is we buy notes essentially that came from the banks that are defaulted, and we buy them at a deep discount. So we're buying the bank's position to buy a defaulted note, and that enables us to do a couple of things. Either we can get the customer to modify and pay again. If they can't pay again, then we're going to either get them to try to deed it to us, or we have the right to foreclose.
I used to do a lot of short sales in 2008, 9, 10, 11 on, and a lot of people understand the concept of doing a short sale where they're getting the bank to discount the debt, the underlying debt, and you can buy it at a discount. Can you differentiate really quickly for those that are maybe wondering in their minds the difference between a short sale and buying the note?
So in a short sale, the bank is essentially agreeing to take a discounted payoff of the amount that they're owed.
Right.
In fact, in the 80s, we used to call it a short payoff.
Sure.
You know, never dreamed it would become common knowledge. But we never dreamed that we would see this much defaulted debt. And so in this case, the banks they're not really foreclosing. The foreclosure rates are down, and the reason that they're down is because the banks are selling packages of defaulted notes in lieu of actually taking them to foreclosure. So there's why the note space has become so popular. You know, it's over $10 billion in tapes that at least made the press. I can't say how many tapes that didn't make the press this year, and a tape is just a group of loans.
Okay.
So there's $10 billion in really large Fannie, Freddie, FHA, Bank America, Chase. There's $10 billion of those groups of loans that have already been put in the marketplace this year. And we think this market phenomena the mountain is so big, Corey.
It is, and it's not getting any smaller.
They're not even chipping off the mountain. We believe there's about 9 million defaulted notes.
Wow.
And there's the redefault rate of notes that are entering in the space are not dropping the size of the mountain. So this space is going to be the topic, we believe, for the next few years. And, you know, there's a lot to be said about somebody that acts on the business and kind of gets there first.
I agree with that. You've bought over 40,000 seller finance notes. Is that accurate?
Yep.
That's incredible. And from you doing that, I mean, that's giving you an incredible amount of knowledge. I'd like to know something, Eddie. We ask a lot of the same questions from each one of our guests on here, and I want to get your take on it. What made you want to be involved in real estate? Just give a quick summary of that.
It was an accident. My father-in-law was one of the founders of the industry of buying seller finance notes. He and his partner, they were over in a little town, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, but they were kind of like pioneers in the business. Mm-hmm. And my wife of now 33 years and I were dating, and I went over one Sunday afternoon, and he started telling me about the note business, and it seemed like 8 hours later we got up from the table, and he said, well, come on by the office tomorrow morning and I can show you how you get started. And I really did, and that's how I did it. Most real estate investors picked the note space because of this incredible opportunity. Right. I just was a kid, 20 years old. I just stumbled into it.
So was there a breaking point in your life, Eddie, where you know some people kind of have this point in their lives where they were doing something different than real estate, and they were just getting to a place where they weren't able to make ends meet, and kind of enough was enough, and then they jumped into that real estate game. They jumped into another career. Was there a breaking point for you, or did you just kind of go another route?
Well, you know, I started in 1980, and interest rates were really high. And Corey, as you know, I was a real cowboy.
Yes, that's right. I see the roping trick.
So
I've seen the roping trick, folks, to know that it exists. Eddie was a bona fide, dignified cowboy.
Yeah. And so, I really thought I was going to be in the ranching space or the cattle industry in some way. And interest rates were 18% and the cow deal wasn't good.
Right.
I was working for the Mississippi Board of Animal Health as a horse inspector, making $1,000 a month, and I was living in a 10 by 40 mobile home.
Wow.
My father-in-law, this may sound kind of gross, but it resonates. My father-in-law said, "Son, I'm going to tell you something. You make a lot more money with a pencil than you can wiping sweat."
I think that someone needs to write that down. My brothers, I have two older brothers, Eddie, and you know this from telling you about it. One of my brothers can take apart an engine and put it back together, and I'm so impressed with him to be able to do that.
Okay.
But he would pull his hair out if he had to be behind a desk or be on the phone or do some of the things that you do by sign with a pen, than out there doing all the manual labor and things like that. He really enjoys that type of business. So at one point I thought, man, if you wanted to do business another way, it would be better. Well, that's not necessarily true, because some people really enjoy that kind of labor. But I agree with you. I think that you will make a ton more once you're using your mind and your brain and using that but with the pen than you are by having that manual labor. I totally agree with that.
Well, it's there's nothing wrong with what your brother does,
Not
and
at all.
I think you and I totally agree that's God's plan for his life,
Yep.
and you and I know that there's nothing better than that plan, right?
He loves it. I mean, he loves it. He talks about, he names his truck, and he's on Facebook a lot of times sending little things. He's got buddies that are, they're in that world and in that life. And for me, I've told him this too. I said, my definition of hell on earth is driving a truck. I mean, it really is. My definition of being on hell on earth would be getting in a truck every day and driving it. And he loves it. And it just goes to show you of how the perspective is, and also using your strengths. So what was your biggest influence, Eddie, when you were first getting started? Was it somebody in your family, you said, or was it somebody else?
My father-in-law and his partner got me started.
Mm-hmm.
And no question, I would have not made it had I not basically served an apprenticeship with them. You and I wouldn't have been having a conversation today. But
Gotcha.
I had several people. I think the guy that really impacted me when I was a little more seasoned in business, or a lot more seasoned in business, was Ken D'Angelo.
Gotcha.
And the guy that founded Homevestors.
Yeah.
I bought my first notes from him in probably 1986.
The Ugg Buys Ugly Houses company.
And this was way before he founded Homevestors. And when he decided he was going to build a franchise, he said, you cannot make it in real estate investing for 25 or 30 years and not have notes as part of your business. And so we did that. Ken was a brilliant guy. He passed away about 10 years ago. Brilliant guy. Loved him immeasurably. Mm-hmm. And he really, he was an older guy than me, and he was really seasoned and very creative, and he impacted me a lot. I'll tell you one quick story about Ken D'Angelo. Ken D'Angelo loved this Homevestor franchise, all the billboards and all that stuff. That was Ken D'Angelo's mind. Mm-hmm. Ugg, all of that was his. It wasn't a marketing guy, so he invented all that stuff. Super bright, creative guy, and but what most people don't know is that Homevestors didn't make money for years, and so Ken D'Angelo had to essentially earn a salary on a very part-time basis so that he could work more than 40 hours a week building Homevestor franchise when it couldn't afford to pay him a salary. And I would say for about 7 years, 60 to 80% of his sideline income came from the note space. Most people don't know that, but that's absolutely the fact.
That's a huge amount. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a huge amount.
So the note business for him let him build his dream of Homevestors.
Sure. I think that more people need to understand just how powerful note buying is, and hopefully after today, they'll get a little bit of glimpse of that. What was one of your big mistakes, Eddie, that you made on a deal? What was maybe one of your bad deals, and what did you learn from it? How'd you get through it? I think sometimes there's value in that.
I've been defrauded. I've had somebody come in my office with a note and all the documents and sell me the note and walk right out the door and find out that they took it and sold the exact note to somebody else. And I've had it happen.
So selling the same note twice.
Yep. They say you can make more profit when you do that, Corey.
I bet you can. How did you get through it? How did you rectify it?
In our case, God's grace and title policy.
Yeah, title policy.
Title insurance.
That'll help. That's what that's for.
Save I can, and that's absolutely what happened.
I gotcha. Okay, so what we do is we want to talk about a profit master investing strategy. Obviously, you're a profit master while you're on the show here, Eddie. Can you share something that's working extremely well in your business today? Some strategy for, obviously probably in the note buying space, something that's working really well that our listeners can grasp and maybe even have an action step to get a result from.
All right, so the quick answer is, Corey, in where you live in Oklahoma City or in Dallas-Fort Worth or in probably 2/3 of the United States, real estate is too cheap compared to what it rents for. Now that's not true in every price band, but in the working class price band, let's just say, Corey, sub $100,000 houses, or maybe sub $150,000.
Midwest, a lot of sub $100,000.
You see houses all the time that the realtor says it's worth $60,000 and it rents for $800 to $1,000 a month.
Right.
That house is really worth more than $60,000. In fact, when you look at all the comps the realtor use, they're all just cash. They're just cash distress comps. So one of the strategies that we've done, and you and I have mutual friends that have been heavy in the space of the loaded cash flow rental business, turnkey rentals, and so what I found is that those houses below $100,000, they're not getting conventionally financed very well. So most of those people are paying cash.
Paying cash, right?
So I backed into a model which I teach a lot about how to owner finance these houses. And you take a house, just kind of general math. I take a house that the realtor says is worth $60,000. I sell it for $85,000 using the cash investors, but he's now only paying half of that price.
Half of the 60, half of the 85.
Half of the 85.
Right.
I'm not selling it for 60.
Right.
And then I use the income of the property, and he has a fully paid for house in 5 years because I owner finance it, and the income from the rent pays for the house. So he didn't get the house immediately.
Right.
I sold him a house essentially at half price and let the tenant pay for the other half.
That's beautiful.
That's a wealth builder.
That is a wealth
It's a winner for me. It's a crazy winner for me, but it's a winner for them.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah. How many of those have you done, Eddie, like that?
Too many to count.
But literally that's one way that you can scale, right? You can start fairly small, right? And then you can just grow it however big you want.
You can operate. That's kind of like a hedge fund model, right? You can do this one house at a time.
Right.
Of course, I mean, obviously, this is something that, Corey, I wouldn't have taught this, 6 or 8 or 10 years ago, and I've been crazy.
Right.
It's just because the insurgence of so many people buying rental houses and the availability of data of finding the customer and dialing down into a market strategy, it wouldn't have been available back then because it wasn't quick. You couldn't get the information quickly. Now you can.
Right. Well, I think everyone can easily see the value of that strategy. Thank you. That's awesome. So what's one piece of advice, Eddie, that you would share about running a successful business? Something quick that someone can take with them.
Just don't give up.
I love that. If you had to start all over again, Eddie, how would you change? And maybe this could be some advice that you're talking to a newbie starting real estate right now. How would you make these different changes if you had to start all over again?
Corey, as you know, you and I are in a mastermind together, and it's not inexpensive. And I have Note School has masterminds and trainings and stuff. And Corey, I've told you this before. I was never in a mastermind until that I went and connected with you guys. And I would just say that those are mistakes that I made because I have been a tenacious soul. I've been doing this for 35 years. Right. And the sun didn't come up every morning the same way. I mean, sometimes you had to make it happen.
Right.
But the thing that I realized is I was not utilizing other minds and other expertise in different ways. And those are mistakes that I think early in the game. And this is not, as you know, you now know my kids.
Yeah.
This is not how I teach. I start my kids learning the business. I believe the power of hanging out with people like you.
You know, I believe power in hanging out with people like you, and that's great that we did meet each other in the mastermind. And I think that the mastermind is like a business fraternity. And not only that, I also like to be able to go to the mastermind because I'm around people that I feel are somewhat of an equal, right? We're thinking about the same kind of things, and we can get different perspectives. You know, the book that we've all read, which is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, I kind of thought that book was okay, but then when I actually went to my first mastermind, I really understood what he was talking about when he's talking about the synergy, and you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. And I mean, that couldn't be any more true with being masterminds. Eddie, what's one, you know, let me ask you this, actually. Let me ask you a different question. What's one of your favorite motivational or business quotes?
Well, I'm a Warren Buffett guy.
Okay.
And he made a quote, and I may not say it exactly right, but I'm close enough.
Okay.
He said, "People buy price until they understand value."
They buy price until they understand value.
And I think in real estate is a value business.
Wow, that is powerful.
Look at what a value we place on price.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, I have a funny thing I do in the audiences fairly regularly, and I'll say, you know, I have a room full of real estate investors at a RIA or something somewhere, and you know, say there's 150 of them in the room, and there's always some Corey Boatwright up and comer, right? and I'll say, so hey, you got a piece of property you want to sell me? And they'll, oh yeah, mm-hmm. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you make your own price, and you can be ridiculous. And they're like, okay, I'm ready. And so I'll ask them just a few little questions about it, and you know, they'll come up with a price. And usually they're not ridiculous enough. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, be ridiculous. And they're like, okay, it's really worth 100, and I'll sell it to you for 125. I'm like, get a contract. We'll get a contract out, and before the end of the day, we'll do it. I said, now let me make sure you understand. I get to pick the terms.
Pick the terms, right? Their price, your terms.
and it resonates because we get so hung up on price, we don't always understand how to be a deal architect.
I love that. I love that term, deal architect, too. Eddie, what books do you recommend? And name one, just one, that's changed your life. I mean, just over the top with a rockin' book for you.
Now, Corey, you know I have dyslexia. You know I have dyslexia.
I do.
So this is kind of the joke the audience doesn't know. I really do have dyslexia. I laugh and tell people I don't recommend it, but I have learned to live with it. So
I'm waiting for a couple of Eddie-isms so we can get on.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, there's some of these little Eddie-isms, we call them. Eddie's a good old boy, and so really he says a few things that are pretty funny.
Yeah, so people really know this isn't scripted. I can't think of the name of the book, but it's How to Sell Anything. What's it called? You know the book I'm talking about?
Which one are you talking? You talking about Dale Carnegie or a sales book?
How to Pitch Anything.
How to Pitch Anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like that book?
So I like that.
Or just pitch anything. Pitch anything.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
And so I like that because I think we're always in the business of making an offer and showing people, as we said, showing them value. So right. I think for me overall that's been as far as impacting my career. We won't trump the Bible, okay? But
sure.
You know, as far as impacting my career, I think that book's probably been the best for me.
Eddie, what's one of your favorite mobile apps that you use every day? I know you're not super techie, but what's one app that you use?
Oh, I'm an iPhone guy. You know that.
Every day.
Yeah. I hate to tell you this, but the two that I use the most is my American Airlines app. And that's sad to say, but
that's okay.
Yeah, it is. And the other one is the weather app because I want to see what the weather is and where I'm going.
The weather app.
It's the truth.
That's great. Oh, that's funny. Okay, Eddie, what's your morning routine? Many people ask and email this question. So what's your typical morning routine?
So as you know, I travel a lot. So when I'm home, I don't beat myself up anymore to get up at a ridiculous hour. Now I have, but I don't get up at a ridiculous hour.
What's not ridiculous? I get up at 5:15 in the morning. When
no,
you get up?
I don't get up till 7 o'clock.
Okay.
But I'm up late. I do a lot of good thinking late. I don't necessarily work, but I think through things.
Okay. What's late? How late you usually stay up?
Midnight.
Midnight. Okay.
Sometimes at 11 o'clock, but I mean, something like that.
So your morning routine is you get up around 7. Then what happens the next hour?
I usually exercise.
Okay.
So
like doing jumping jacks or push-ups or
we've got an elliptical machine in the house, or my wife and I train with a couple of different people, and we'll go train with them.
Oh, that's cool.
Train this morning.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to. I'm getting old, Corey. I got to take care of myself.
You're not that old, Eddie.
So I try to do that if I can, and my wife Martha, that you know well, works in the business with me. So usually we go in a different car to the office, but sometimes we don't, and we just we don't have like a round table breakfast thing. Our kids are kind of at a point where they're up and gone,
right?
Early, or they're not at home because they're in college or something like that. So,
so nothing real regimented, right? Like you don't have anything where you get up and
some Cinderella story that I get up and go out and look on the porch and have these deep thoughts or whatever.
Okay, right. What's the single greatest lesson that you've learned that's helped you get to where you are today, Eddie? Just really quickly in your mind, what do you think that is? One lesson that really just you can think back and go, man, because I learned that's really helped me get to where I am.
Trust but verify. That's
a Ronald Reagan. Isn't it? Yeah, that's great. What are you most grateful for, Eddie?
Family.
I love that. If you had to summarize it, why do you do what you do? This is something that I think a lot of times we forget. I know I do. I know we've talked about this in our mastermind. But why is it that you do what you do right now, Eddie, in the real estate investing business?
Corey, I know people say all kind of things, and I'm very blessed that I get to be involved in some charities, and I'm very blessed that I have a family that I love and I want to give a lineage to.
Sure.
And but I'm not going to just give it to them. I'm going to help them learn to do it, and all that's really cool. But I'll just be flat out honest with you, Corey. I just love this. I have a passion for it.
I can tell you do. Every time I talk to you, I know you're teaching people. You and I have taught together in Dallas.
We have.
And
Note School for Teens.
Note School for Teens. Love that. And also just seeing how you break down the business in such a easy way. If you're ever around one of Eddie's events, we'll give you a chance to find out where he is in just a second, his next one. But you've got to go check out this Note School. It is absolutely incredible. And I believe you when you say that. Sometimes people say something and you're like, yeah, you're just saying that. I really do believe you when you say that, because I can see it in you, and you're doing it all the time, and you have a passion for it. Eddie, at what point would you recommend hiring a coach or a mentor? And how important has that been in your success, thinking through your kind of trials and tribulations and ups and downs?
Well, in my early days, I basically served an apprenticeship. So I worked for free,
I love that.
And I've mentored and trained a lot of people, and I've paid a lot of people to help me, and you and I mutually pay some people to help us with things.
Yes.
We know. And I'm saying to you that experience is what you get when you're expecting something else.
Experience is what you let me camp out for that. Experience is what you get when you're expecting something else.
So if you want to avoid experience, you need to hire somebody to help you with some experience.
Gotcha. Wow.
And that can look all kind of different ways. That could be a mastermind, that could be a class, that could be working under somebody, that could be a lot of different things. But that's a really important thing, because a lot of times we have these grandiose ideas of here's how it's going to work, and how many times in life have you seen it turn out to be different than how you initially thought it was going to be?
Do you think you would have hired a coach earlier on in your career, Eddie, or a little, about the right time when you did? Because I know you have hired several coaches. Do you think it would have been earlier on that you would have hired one, or do you think
much earlier?
Much earlier.
You and I
agree.
You and I were in a class the other day together from a guy that's really good, and it was a class about speaking.
Absolutely.
And I told you I made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
In not hiring somebody earlier to help me with speaking. I know the note business. Okay, I'm not. It's not likely I could hire somebody to go teach me about the note business as far as from a speaking perspective, just because there's not a lot of people that speak about it, and I'm pretty seasoned.
Sure.
But I can hire a lot of people to help me communicate my story that are good communicators in different areas. And so that's an example of, I look at myself and think, I just didn't make myself do it. So that's kind of my heart that I'm, want to make sure that everybody understands. It's like, people, I think they look at us a little bit some days, Corey, and we seem a little bit untouchable.
Right.
And really, we're just a bunch of guys that have made a bunch of mistakes, and we know
true.
a whole lot of ways not to do it anymore.
That's so true. Just to add to that, 5 seconds here, Eddie, and you said it so well. I think that just on a really personal level, whenever as a guy, because I am a guy, I can only say it as a guy. I know there's a lot of girl listeners too, but as a guy, I find it very difficult to ask for help for something. And it's kind of like guys don't want to be told what to do, read the instructions, just kind of want to figure it out. And there's a reason why. I've investigated this, and it's because psychologically I think I'm weaker whenever I ask for help. And I just want to challenge a thought out there, if you've thought that way before, and I know it's not something you want to typically just admit that you're weak, but if you actually get honest with yourself, and if that's something that resonates with you, I want to challenge the way you think. And what if you told yourself a different story? What if you actually said you're stronger and you will succeed faster, and everything that you want in your life will get to you faster if you ask and reach out and ask for help? And if you're stronger, not weaker, for having that mentality change. You agree with that, Eddie?
Look at every professional athlete.
Yes.
Look at all of these people, from the president to this and to that, and they're surrounded with people that are helping them, give them a vision of what to do. They're making observations. They're studying a certain segment of what they're doing in a way, and it's just, and I agree, and a little bit being hard-headed, kind of being honest. That I did not get help quicker than I should, and there's no good reason for it. So I'm cured from that now. And so you get to see me at different things along the way, and it's kind of funny. Like when you were going to that class up there, I don't think I knew you were going.
Right.
and of course, then I walked in, and I just had to walk around and not let you know I was there. I'm just kidding. First thing I did is ran and hugged him. So.
Yeah, that's what we always do. Yeah. Hey, Eddie, okay, this has been fantastic. I want to go ahead and be conscious of everyone's time. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know you are incredibly busy, and that really is. You're on the road a ton right now, and you love it, and you're teaching. Where is the next event coming? When is the next event coming? How can someone get in touch with you if they want to know more about Note School and more about your event, Eddie?
So we have a specific site that you can go to that'll tell you about these 3-day classes, and it's called attendnoteschool.com. Attendnoteschool.com.
Attendnoteschool.com. Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
There's two different classes. One on performing notes, one on non-performing notes. They're 3-day classes.
Okay.
You've been to them. They're really solid. I mean, they're like. They are a game changer for anybody that's a real estate investor, and obviously bolting on note opportunities on top of that is just naturally going to happen.
So attendnotebuying.com.
No, Attend Note School.
Attendnoteschool.com. Excuse me. Okay.
Now, our basic website is noteschool.com.
Right. Okay.
And there's some stuff, and they can go on there, and there's some free training they can get. Just some simple free stuff. Just good picture, get started in the business. Or if they want to, really drill down and look at a class, then they would go to attendnoteschool.com, and it's got the specifics on those 2 classes, and it tells you where they are.
That's perfect. Eddie, thank you for taking the time to be on here. I will make sure that we have that domain in the show notes, and I'll send you over the recording of this. Thank you, Eddie. I really appreciate it. Any final thoughts?
I'm really, really glad that you're doing this, bringing back the podcast. It's really, you got something to share with folks. So I want to thank you for everybody in the audience for you're getting after this again.
Really appreciate it. Thank you again, Eddie. Remember, as always, to be a servant and make sure that you attend every one of the Profit Master podcasts from Real Estate Investing Profits. Thank you again. Appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next Profit Master podcast. Bye now.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.